Hare Krishna. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to daily Srimad-Bhagavatam class. My name is Nanda-braja. Today, Hare Krishna. Hi, Arjuna Das, Prabhu. Today we're reading from Srimad-Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 7, Text 52. Before that, we'll sing Jai Radha Madhava once we get it on the screen here. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna. There it is. Thank you, Dina Tarini. There it goes. It disappeared. Uh-oh. No. Yes. Oh, thank you. Garland. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kundabiyari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kundabiyari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Shri Radhe Jaya Radha Kala Sanji Radha Kala Sanji Shri Radhe Jaya Radha Kala Sanji Radha Kala Sanji Shri Radhe Jaya Radha Kala Sanji Radha Kala Sanji Shri Radhe Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Nitya Gora Haribol, 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 Nitya Gora Haribol. Shri Shri Radha Madhava ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Kala Chandraji ki jai. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Sarvatim Visyam Tato Jayam Yudirayat. Please, everybody together, before reciting the Srimad-Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer the respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead, Narayana, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Sri the Vyasadeva, the author. Nashta prayasha abreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttamasloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistaki. Together, please. By regular attendance in this class of Bhagavatam, and by rendering the service to the pure devotees, all that is troublesome in the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, established as irrevocable fact. Om Gantimarandasya Gananjana Salakaya Shakshuram Meditam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with a torchlight of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances to him. Hare Krishna. So we're reading from Canto 2, Chapter 7, verse 52. And before last night when I found out that I was going to do this, I thought it would be nice because we have quite a few new people here to Srimad-Bhagavatam, and I was thinking maybe I'll give a preview of why Srimad-Bhagavatam. There's so many different scriptures, so many different writings on Vedic literature. Why is it that Srimad-Bhagavatam is something that we read each morning? And amazingly enough, the verse that we're going to read that was picked for today, that I didn't pick, works perfectly with this. You'll see it. It's really pretty cool. So I thought that if we're going to talk about why Srimad-Bhagavatam, we should understand why the author wrote Srimad-Bhagavatam. So the author of Srimad-Bhagavatam is who? Vyasadeva. And Vyasadeva, as the author, before he wrote Srimad-Bhagavatam, he wrote so many different other Vedic literatures. And why did Vyasadeva decide that it would be a benefit of humanity to write down the Vedic literatures? Yes, Kali Yuga was coming, and people became forgetful. So before Kali Yuga, people could just hear something once or read something once, and they would completely remember this. We have this experience nowadays even, right? There's some people sometimes they have autism, and they can do this. Or sometimes people just are geniuses, and they can read something once, and they literally can they remember it all their life. I remember in school, we had this boy named Derek, and he had autism, and he really loved the sports teams. And I played football, so he would talk to me and stuff, but he remember every stat that was happening. So in the girls' basketball team, he could say, Ashley, you scored 14 points, you got 3 anyways, and he would remember them forever. So we have a little bit of experience this, but in the days before Kali Yuga, this wasn't just a special occasion. Everybody could literally hear and just remember. And so Vyasadeva deciding to write down the Vedic literatures for the benefit of the humans, humanity, he wrote down the Vedas, but he wasn't feeling happy. He didn't feel fulfilled. Now, the Vedic literatures, I can give kind of an idea of how big they are. To be honest with you, I don't really exactly know, but the point I'm trying to get here when I give this kind of explanation is just to give you an idea of how vast the Vedic knowledge are, the Vedas are. This room right here, we could times it by 10 and fill it up with books, and it still would just be a drop in the ocean of Vedic literature. So Vyasadeva wrote down all of this Vedic literature, and he distributed it so people could teach it, but he wasn't feeling fulfilled. I mean, you can imagine that a life's work of writing down all this, and you still don't feel happy. So in his I don't want to say distress, but his contemplation of why he was feeling unfulfilled, somebody appeared. Who appeared to Vyasadeva? Narada Muni, right? And Narada Muni is a very interesting character, right? Devotees, when they say Narada Muni, they smile, right? Because we know Narada Muni and the way that Narada Muni acts. Narada Muni, do you know the person, maybe you went to school or you have them in the office, they stir the pot, and they're always they're always causing drama. They're always in the middle of it. If you want to know the office drama, it's always Susie. Susie's always doing something, right? She's always stirring it up, right? Well, Narada Muni is the transcendental pot stirrer. So Narada Muni will come, and he will churn the drama so that Krishna can come and do his pastimes. So this is just a little bit of Narada Muni. We could go so many stories about Narada Muni stirring the pot. But Narada Muni comes and says, he kind of smiles at Vyasadeva. Oh, here we go. So we have Narada Muni on the left and Vyasadeva on the right here. So Vyasadeva has just written the Vedas. He's distressed or unfulfilled. Narada Muni comes. And Narada Muni, seeing his disciple distressed, what does he do? At first he laughs at him. He kind of smiles and says, hey, I see that you're not so happy here. What's going on? And Vyasadeva explains that he's not feeling fulfilled. Although he did all of this literature for humankind, he's still feeling unfulfilled. Drista, would you mind turning to Canto 1, Chapter 5, text 8 through 11, about that area right there. Yes. Thank you, Drista. Would somebody mind reading this first, this eighth text? So Narada is going to now tell him why you're not happy.
Text 8. Sri Narada said, "You have not actually broadcast the sublime and spotless glories of the personality of Godhead. That philosophy which does not satisfy the transcendental senses of the Lord is considered worthless."
Text 9, please.
Although, great sage, you have very broadly described the four principles beginning with religious performances, you have not described the glories of the Supreme Personality, Vasudeva.
10.
Those words which do not describe the glories of the Lord, who alone can sanctify the atmosphere of the whole universe, are considered by saintly persons to be unto a place of pilgrimage for crows. Since the all-perfect persons are inhabitants of the transcendental abode, they do not derive any pleasure there.
On the other hand, that literature which is full of descriptions of the transcendental glories of the name, fame, forms, pastimes, etc., of the unlimited Supreme Lord is a different creation, full of transcendental words directed towards bringing about a revolution in the impious lives of this world's misdirected civilization. Such transcendental literatures, even though imperfected, composed, are heard, sung, and accepted by purified men who are thoroughly honest.
Can you go back to text 10, Drista, please? Those words which do not ascribe the glories of the Lord, who alone can sanctify the atmosphere of the whole universe, are considered by saintly persons, to be like unto a place of pilgrimage of crows. Where do crows hang out? James, where? Trash? Yeah? James, you play flute, and you're very good at it. Can you imagine a lifetime of learning how to play flute, and your spiritual master comes and tells you it's trash? You'd be like, whoa, right? It's a little strong, right? Luke, you got your degree in mathematics, right? So your spiritual master comes to you and says, all that time you spent on math is trash. Vyasadeva is kind of like this in a situation. He's just compiled all the Vedic literatures, and his spiritual master has come and said, it's all trash. Pretty heavy, right? But this is the spiritual master's kindness to the disciple and saying, you're not happy. I know why here, and I want to be very clear. The literature that you've come is he says that you've simply given people the inclination to enjoy through religious principles. So the Vedas, we kind of talked about this yesterday. The Vedas often speak about Vedic rituals and religious principles. And this can tell people how to become materially benefited. You do this, you get this. You do this, you do that, you get this. And so Narada Muni says that if you really want to feel fulfilled yourself, then you have to do this for humanity. You have to describe the pastimes, the name of Krishna. And so this is the purpose of Srimad-Bhagavatam. Narada Muni is now switched over from the Vedic literature to describing the glories of Krishna. And that's what Srimad-Bhagavatam is. It describes the glories of Krishna's pastimes and his pure devotees. And there's so many different stories through the Srimad-Bhagavatam to help us understand the situations we are in and how we can see it through transcendental literature and how to act and how to cultivate our character. So, in this compilation of Srimad-Bhagavatam, there's a story of how we come to hear it in this form we read it right now. And that's in the story of Maharaj Parikshit. Maharaj Parikshit is a great king. It's okay. Very nice of you, Luke. Maharaj Parikshit is a great king. Everybody in Maharaj Parikshit's dynasty is happy. All the citizens are completely fulfilled. We can't even really imagine that nowadays, right? There's so much disturbance in our communities and in our world that it's just part of how we are. But in Maharaj Parikshit, he ran his country, he ran his kingdom so nicely that nobody was distressed. The story goes, though, well, actually, before that, I want to ask one question. Arjuna. What's Maharaj Parikshit's name mean? Oh, just a second, we got a mic here going. Go ahead, please. What's the meaning of Parikshit's name?
Yeah.
Okay, Sumedavi. The name of, we'll go down the line. Drista. What's Parikshit mean?
The examiner.
The examiner. So Parikshit's name, sometimes we have, like, my secular name is Nathan. And then Nathaniel means a gift of God. And so Parikshit means the examiner. And why is Maharaj Parikshit called, why is his name the examiner? Arjuna or Sumedvi, would you guys like to take a shot at this? I apologize if I put you in it. No? Okay. Who can explain? Is anybody here? They can explain why is Maharaj Parikshit named Maharaj Parikshit, the examiner?
Looking for Krishna, who was protected him in the womb of Mother Uttara when the atomic weapon Brahmastra was cast by Ashwatthama. So he was protected, and he happened to look at the most wonderful, beautiful form of Krishna, as short as the size of the thumb. So he was wondering, and he was, out of his curiosity, he was looking for that person.
Always examining. So he was always examining everything in the world, looking for Krishna. So Prabhu was mentioning that he was in the womb of his mother, and Ashwatthama, who was an enemy, wanted to finish the lineage of Maharaj Parikshit, his family lineage. And Maharaj Parikshit was his father had already passed, and he was the last. He was anyways the next in the line, and so trying to kill the lineage, he threw a weapon to try to kill Maharaj Parikshit in his mother's womb. But when that happened, Krishna appeared and saved him. And so when that happened, Maharaj Parikshit, in the womb of his mother, saw Krishna. And seeing that beautiful form of Krishna, Krishna left, and he said it was so beautiful that he was always looking for Krishna. So the examiner. So the story, Maharaj Parikshit as the king, is in his kingdom. He's ruling nicely, and he decides to go on an adventure, you could say. And in his adventure, Maharaj Parikshit, looking, always searching, sees a sage. And the sage, what is the name sage? The name of the sage? Is anybody? No, Shringi's the son. Yes. The sage's name, I'm forgetting. Anybody remember?
Shamika.
Shamika? Shamika, the sage Shamika is in samadhi. He's sitting there meditating. And Maharaj Parikshit, as the king, comes up to him and says, hey, tries to wake him. Maharaj Parikshit is thirsty. He wants to ask for some water. But he doesn't respond to him at all. And Maharaj Parikshit, again, hey, doesn't wake. So Maharaj Parikshit, in his thirst, and because of the arrangement of Lord Krishna, he does something out of character. He gets a little bit disturbed. And what he does is he grabs a dead snake and he puts it on the neck of the sage. But he's thinking why he does this, he's so disturbed, is he thinks that he's doing it on purpose. He thinks he's ignoring him. You're not really in samadhi, you're not really in trance, you're ignoring me. So, the son of the sage, Shringi, hears about his father being disrespected like this. And so he, being the son of a sage, is also very powerful. And he curses Maharaj Parikshit. He says he's so distraught. He's like crying because his father has been disrespected like this. And he says, gives him a curse. You will be bitten by a snake bird and you will die. So when the sage wakes, Shringi's upset. His son's upset. He says, oh, what's wrong, son? And he says, well, this happened. You have this snake, dead snake around you, and the Maharaj Parikshit, the emperor, came and he threw the snake onto you. But don't worry, Dad, I've cursed him. His father shakes his head. What you've done is wrong. You shouldn't have done this. You should be tolerant. The king, whatever the king does is right. You shouldn't have done this. So, Maharaj Parikshit, later in his life, he does end up getting bit by a snake. And when bitten by the snake, he has 7 days to live. Now, Maharaj Parikshit had the opportunity. He could have very easily had this nullified. But Maharaj Parikshit is a pure devotee of the Lord, so he saw this as an arrangement by the Lord. He said, oh, this is the Lord's arrangement. I've made an offense. I should take this punishment. And so, Maharaj Parikshit being so loved, people hearing that he only has 7 days, the sages get together and they decide what is best for a person who's going to die. What's best for the emperor who's going to die in 7 days. So as they're there together, somebody walks in. Sukadev Goswami. And who is Sukadev Goswami?
The son of Vyasadeva.
Ah, the son of Vyasadeva, the author of Srimad-Bhagavatam. So Sukadev Goswami is born as liberated, completely transcendental, always a pure devotee of the Lord. He has no desire. He has no need. He lives simply just by wherever Krishna takes him. And he happens to walk into this assembly at the perfect time. So he sits down on the Vyasa-san. Everybody, all of the sages there are very, 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 very spiritually advanced. But they could immediately at once understand when Sukadev Goswami walked in, seeing him, they knew, this is the person. He's the person to speak this and tell you what to do at the end of your life. So, then Sukadev Goswami, being questioned by Maharaj Parikshit, speaks Srimad-Bhagavatam. And so, let's turn to the verse of today. Srimad-Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Text 7, 52. Okay, we'll recite the Sanskrit. Yataharo Bhagavati Nirnam Bhaktir Bhavishati Sarvyatmani Akhilyadari. Hare. Thank you. Sarvatmani Akhilyadhe. Iti sankalpya varanaya. Yatahara Bhagavati Naranam Bhaktir Bhavishati Sarvatmani Akhiladharhe Iti Sankalpya Varanaya. Please chant. Yataharo Bhagavati Naranam Bhaktir Bhavishati Sarvatmani Akhiladharhe Iti Sankalpya Vanana. Haro Bhagavati Bhaktir Bhagavashati Sarvyatmi Alarkarde Iti Sankalpya Varnana. Bhaktir Bhavishyati Sarvatmani Akhilarde Inki Sankalpya Varnaya. The question might be raised, why do we read the Sanskrit? And it's, what's that? You have any? Huh? It sounds pretty. It's interesting you mentioned that because I have a friend who's a scholar in Srimad-Bhagavatam, and he says that in any scholarly situation where people are reading poetry or literature works, the Srimad-Bhagavatam is without doubt the most beautiful and most most wonderfully composed. The meter, the rhyme, the poetry, it's amazing. So, go ahead, Esther.
I wonder if everyone here can understand it without the translation.
Some people here, anybody here can understand Sanskrit? A little bit. Yeah. What you'll find is devotees who don't particularly study Sanskrit, what they'll do is through reading Srila Prabhupada's books in Sanskrit, you'll pick out words here and there. And then so even to the point where some people are good enough that they can read it and they're like, oh, I know that word, and they can put it together. But there are some people that are scholars that know Sanskrit and can literally like I have a couple friends that could literally read this and they could tell you the translation. It's pretty amazing. But the reason why we read the Sanskrit is because it's actually what was spoken by the person. So like for instance, Bhagavad Gita is spoken by Krishna. So we don't just read the translation because we actually get a chance to actually read and say the words that were actually spoken by Krishna. And there's power in that. There's actually purification in that. So that's the reason, if you wonder, why do we read the Sanskrit? I don't understand it. It doesn't mean anything. This is the reason why you do it. And as a matter of fact, when you read, you might notice that at first it's kind of tough, but you read it 3 or 4 times, and you can feel the rhythm and the meter and at least some people can feel like kind of a lightning in the heart. So anyways, let's go to the translation, please. Somebody please read the translation.
Please describe the science of Godhead with determination and in a manner by which it will be quite possible for the human being to develop transcendental devotional service unto the personality of Godhead, Hari, the super soul of every living being, and the summum bonum, source of all energies.
Somebody read the purport, please.
Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Srila Prabhupada.
Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Srimad-Bhagavatam is the philosophy of devotional service and the scientific presentation of man's relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Prior to the age of Kali, there was no need for such a book of knowledge to know the Lord and His energies. But with the beginning of the age of Kali, human society gradually became influenced by 4 sinful principles, namely, illegitimate connection with women, intoxication, gambling, and unnecessary killing of animals. Because of these basic sinful acts, man gradually became forgetful of his eternal relation with God. Therefore, man became blind, so to speak, to his ultimate goal of life. The ultimate goal of life is not to pass a life of irresponsibility like the animals and indulge in a polished way in the 4 animal principles, namely eating, sleeping, fearing, and mating. For such a blind human society in the darkness of ignorance, Srimad-Bhagavatam is the torchlight to see things in proper perspective. Therefore, it was necessary to describe the science of God from the very beginning, or from the very birth of the phenomenal world.
Next paragraph, please. So if you can either read it or somebody else can, either way.
As we have already explained, Srimad-Bhagavatam is so scientifically presented that any sincere student of this great science will be able to understand the science of God simply by reading it with attention, or simply by regularly hearing it from the bona fide speaker. Everyone is hankering after happiness in life, but in this age, the members of human society, blind as they are, do not have the proper vision that the personality of Godhead is the reservoir of all happiness, because He has the ultimate source of everything. Janmadi asaya yata. Happiness and complete perfection without hindrance can be achieved only by our devotional relationship with Him. And it is only by His association that we can get free of distressful material existence. Even those who are after the enjoyment of the material world can also take shelter of the great science of Srimad-Bhagavatam, and they will be successful at the end. Narada is therefore requested or ordered by his spiritual master to present this science with determination in good plan. Narada was never advised to preach the principles of Bhagavatam to earn a livelihood. He was ordered by his spiritual master to take the matter very seriously in a missionary spirit.
mentioned in the beginning that I was thinking, tomorrow when I give class, I should give an example of why Srimad-Bhagavatam. This verse was already picked out. So I was like, wow, like this is like a softball. They call it like, you ever heard this saying, it's like a softball, somebody's giving you a lob. Anyways, lob. Go ahead and go back, go ahead and go back to the purport. First I'll ask, in this purport, did you hear anything about why Srimad-Bhagavatam? What did Srila Prabhupada say? Why Srimad-Bhagavatam? Did you raise your hand? So maybe? Just maybe. Esther.
I was just going to say the last line, that he was ordered by a spiritual master.
Narada Muni was, yes. Any other examples in this purport, how Srila Prabhupada gives?
He said that the Srimad-Bhagavatam is the torchlight in this blind world.
Right? What else, Trista?
I think the first few sentences in the first paragraph are talking about Srimad-Bhagavatam, and that it's the Lord, it's about the Lord, it's about the devotee, and it's about their relationship. Or I can't remember exactly what he said, but it was something like that.
Yeah. So, Srila Prabhupada mentions that animal life is made up of 4 things. What are those 4 things that animals... Go ahead. Oh, Esther. Esther, name one of them.
Fear.
Fear. Fearing?
Eating, sleeping, and mating.
Eating, sleeping, and mating. So we have these in common with animals. Humans, animals, we all have these in common. But what makes the human life different than that of the animal? Esther.
We had a speaker yesterday, and the time that he came last, he said something like, animals run on 4 legs and humans drive on 4 wheels, like a car.
Yeah.
So in that sense, we are similar to animals. But I think because animals don't have karma, I've heard, but humans do, so they're able to get good karma and do good things. But animals, they just they mate, eat, sleep, and
right.
Yeah.
So the animals lack intelligence. They're just simply acting out of these 4 things. So they don't receive karma. But the human life, the human form of life, is a way that we have intelligence. And so Srila Prabhupada and Bhagavatam are here for us to find out what the goal of life is. That's one thing that Srila Prabhupada said in the purport, is that what's being explained here is the purpose of life. What is the goal of life? Why is life here? And so Srimad-Bhagavatam gives us these answers. And so, as spoken before, when Vyasa writes the Srimad-Bhagavatam, he's writing this to show people the name, the form, and the pastimes of Krishna. And because of this, that we consider the Srimad-Bhagavatam the literary incarnation of Krishna. So in this chapter before, we had spoken about different incarnations of Krishna. He comes in so many different... Jose, what were some of the incarnations of Krishna that were spoken about before? Some of them are fun.
Nrsimhadev.
Nrsimhadev, right? Nrsimhadev is the half man, half lion incarnation. What other incarnations of Krishna were spoken about before?
Kurma.
Kurma. And what is Kurma?
He's a turtle.
Kurma is a turtle. Krishna came in an incarnation as a turtle. What else?
Varaha.
Kurma?
Varaha.
Vraha, a boar. He came as Vamanadev. Vamanadev was a dwarf. So we like to think that Krishna just came in this, this form of Krishna and stuff, but he came in so many different ways. And one of those incarnations is this Srimad-Bhagavatam. So when we read this Srimad-Bhagavatam, it is non-different than Krishna. We literally, just by touching it, reading it, hearing it, are connecting with Krishna. And when we connect with Krishna, we come in contact with spiritual nature. And spiritual nature is Sat Chit Ananda, completely blissful, full of knowledge, and eternal. And that's what we're hankering for, is that constitutional position of complete bliss, complete knowledge, and eternal. And by associating with Srimad-Bhagavatam and spiritual energy, we start to take up this nature. Esther, you had a question.
I was gonna say, do the other incarnations, is that like also with other religions, how they have different gods? Because
Yes.
I've heard that it's all the same God, but it's just like at different times he comes as in different ways to speak to different people of those times. So is it kind of like that?
Yes. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, I come to reestablish religion and to get rid of the miscreants. So he'll come in different ways and shape and forms to do that, yes. So if you do me a favor and turn to Srimad-Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 2, Text 18. Thank you. We read this every day before Srimad-Bhagavatam class. This is one of the invocations. And it says, by regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. So this association with the literary incarnation of Krishna regularly, every day, and by service to the pure devotee, then all the things within our heart that are troublesome, all those things that are making us unhappy or creating unhappy, they will be swept away. And not only are those swept away, but at the same time, our love and our growing of love for Krishna develops. And this is why we read Srimad-Bhagavatam every day, and this is why we encourage everybody to read Srimad-Bhagavatam, because there literally is no other text like this. Hare Krishna. Any questions, comments, thoughts, concerns? Uh-oh. Just
So we're talking about how Bhagavatam is the literary incarnation of Krishna, and we understand that we have a relationship with Krishna, and we have, we have a very unique relationship with Krishna, and Krishna is also a person. So how does that necessarily translate to a book? Like, for example, these other incarnations, it's like you can kind of interact with them, but the book, it seems like how will you have the relationship you have with Krishna with the book?
So, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say you can love a book.
Absolutely, right? So many people love different stories. So, our culture, our Krishna culture, is actually a culture of Srimad-Bhagavatam culture. Through Srimad-Bhagavatam, we can literally read every psychological situation that somebody can come through. So by studying Srimad-Bhagavatam, you can actually start to see it practically in your life. There'll be situations in your life and you'll go, oh, I remember a story that went like this, and oh my gosh, this is what's going on. This is what's going on in my life. Oh, what did that devotee do? How did this person act? Oh, how is this person acting that I should, how is this person acting and how I should react? Anyways, the point being is that through Srimad-Bhagavatam, because of Krishna's potency, it's not just a book that we read and put it on the shelf. It actually becomes active in our life. It actually starts to see it through our daily living. And that's what makes Srimad-Bhagavatam so unique and becomes actually a culture, not just a book. Does that answer your question? Partially? Or good? Okay.
Wondering about like the different rasas.
Different rasas. Oh. That's a good question. How do our rasas, specifically, what's our relationship with Bhagavan? Well, that's the thing, is it's unique to the person. I don't want to repeat myself, but I'm kind of thinking the same thing, is that the uniqueness of Srimad-Bhagavatam is that people will read it and it will be active in their life in different ways. Different people will see different stories. Some people will be more attractive to Narada Muni and his stirring the pot. Some people will be very inclined to Nrsingadev and how he protects Prahlad. So that, some people will be attracted to the stories of Krishna in the 10th canto and his activities. And so there's so many different stories in Srimad Bhagavatam that attracts different people with different personalities and different natures. However, again, I don't mean to repeat myself. The wonderful thing about Srimad Bhagavatam is, in a whole, it is actually, everything is there. Every situation that somebody can come to can see practically how it's in their life and how Srimad Bhagavatam is asking us to respond. It's pretty cool. Yeah. Yes.
I was thinking, like, Srimad Bhagavatam, we associate with Srimad Bhagavatam every single day. Like, we read it in the morning and we hear the stories from Bhagavatam, and we become, like, invested in those stories. Like, you're becoming invested, like, in that sense to Krishna, because Bhagavatam is like a literary incarnation. So every time you read it, you're developing that relationship. Every time we recite a verse, we're developing that relationship. Or every time you get, like, emotionally invested in, like, oh my God, what's going to happen to Parikshit Maharaj? That's also getting emotionally invested in it. So that's developing that relationship with Krishna. But like, in terms of, like, a rasa, like, I don't know exactly what it would be, because you're learning from Srimad Bhagavatam. So I don't know, maybe whatever rasa, like, maybe Guru would be under. I don't know I don't know what category that is. But it's not exactly like, I know we say we serve Srimad Bhagavatam, but I wouldn't say it's exactly like Dasyam or anything.
A little advanced.
Sorry.
One thing I wanted to mention in particularly, that how Srimad Bhagavatam, you can see it practically in your life, is I was kind of explaining how I was thinking last night, this is the direction I kind of would like to go with Srimad Bhagavatam. And then the verse that we read was perfectly in where I was trying to go with the direction. And that might not mean much to you guys, but when you experience that in yourself, you say, I have a thought and I have an experience, and then you read Srimad Bhagavatam and it's just like, boom, right there with your life and what's going on. It's like, oh my gosh, this is like, it's no longer just a coincidence. You can actually see, I didn't really actually think this. Krishna was giving me a hint through Paramatma and trying to encourage me to speak in this way or that, and boom, there it was in Srimad Bhagavatam. So similarly, you'll be going through situations and you'll open up Srimad Bhagavatam, and in Srila Prabhupada's purport, boom, there will be an answer, and you go, that was what I was looking for. And that's how amazing Srimad Bhagavatam is. Go Nanda Prabhu.
Thank you very much for a wonderful class, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu.
So, what comes to my mind is three things I would like to mention. First thing is, when Srimad-Bhagavatam as a dialogue started between Parikshit Maharaj and Shukadeva Goswami, there were 6 questions asked by Parikshit Maharaj. So this last one was, I'm just paraphrasing, so who does Dharma take shelter of after Krishna's departure? So the answer given by Shukadeva Goswami is Bhagavatam. So that's how, answering his question. That's how we look at as devotees or practitioners of devotional service. Second one is talking about the meditation. There are 5 types of meditations called Nama, Rupa, Leela, Guna, and Seva. Name, beautiful form of the Lord, then qualities of the Lord, then pastimes of the Lord, and Seva is the service. So Srimad Bhagavatam is the embodiment or the personification of all these 5 forms of meditation. So that is the second aspect I would like to, perceive or look at Srimad-Bhagavatam as. It's a meditation.
Mm.
And third one is, most importantly, there are ninefold processes of devotional service. And each of those practices are, we have the personality exhibiting the fullest form of, or rather characteristic of, form of practice of those nine processes.
Mm-hmm.
So Parikshit Maharaj is the embodiment of hearing, Shravanam, and Shukadeva Goswami is the
Speaking.
Kirtanam aspect.
Very nice.
So that's the third aspect I would like to.
Oh, wow.
Thank you.
I think that's the perfect time to end. All right, very nice. Thank you, Golokananda Prabhu. Okay. Srimad-Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaura Pamanande Hari Hari Bo. Hare Krishna.